From Oscar winners to television icons, addiction has claimed some of Hollywood's brightest stars. Here are famous actors who were destroyed by drugs.
Well, hello, beautiful. You must be Harvey's squeeze.
Heath Ledger had special talent not possessed by many actors. When he became the Joker in The Dark Knight, it wasn't just acting, he genuinely immersed himself in the psychological chaos of the character. Critics called it one of cinema's greatest performances, but the role took everything from him. Countless sleepless nights, complete psychological immersion, and a willingness to explore some really dark places. Friends started noticing he couldn't separate himself from the character's madness. He struggled with terrible insomnia, and the constant anxiety was taking a physical toll. He relied on prescription medications, sleeping pills, painkillers, anti-anxiety drugs, and he was mixing them in ways that were getting increasingly dangerous. On January 22, 2008, New York woke up to devastating news. Ledger was found unresponsive in his Manhattan apartment. He was only 28 years old. The autopsy showed it was an accidental overdose of prescription drugs.
Would you mind playing this?
Yeah, sure thing, lady.
Hollywood icon Marilyn Monroe represented desire for an entire generation with her platinum curls and that distinctive voice. But behind the carefully crafted persona was a woman who grew up in foster homes and orphanages after her mother's institutionalization. She never knew real love or stability. Hollywood typecast her as a blonde fantasy, denying her the substantial roles she craved. The constant rejection of her talent, combined with failed marriages to Joe DiMaggio and Arthur Miller, left her emotionally devastated. To cope with the pain and anxiety, she turned to barbiturates and sedatives. But dependency crept in silently. She began mixing medications, taking more than prescribed, unable to function without them. The drugs that once offered escape now controlled her completely. On August 5, 1962, Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her Los Angeles home at 36. The official cause was acute barbiturate poisoning. The pills she'd relied on to survive had killed her.
Very nice. Never saw you look.
When studios control every aspect of a performer's life, the cycle of dependency can start early. Judy Garland won hearts as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Her voice carried innocence and vulnerability that resonated across generations. She became Hollywood's sweetheart, a symbol of wholesome American dreams. But MGM started feeding her amphetamines and barbiturates when she was still a child, using pills to control her weight and energy. Studio head Louis B. Mayer criticized her appearance, limiting her to soup while demanding impossible standards. The pills became her prison, uppers to wake her, downers to sleep her, diet pills to shrink her. Even after leaving MGM, she couldn't stop. The dependency ran too deep. She tried breaking free, checking into treatment facilities multiple times. But every attempt at sobriety crumbled. Her career suffered as the addiction worsened. Missed performances, erratic behavior, and decline made her unreliable. On June 22, 1969, Garland was found dead in her London hotel room at 47 after another barbiturate overdose.
Do you have any baggage? Enjoy the flight.
Thanks.
Sometimes the seeds of addiction are planted long before fame arrives, as was the case with River Phoenix. His performances in Stand By Me and My Own Private Idaho were unforgettable as he made it look effortless. He was magnetic, incredibly talented, and seemed to have unlimited potential. However, Phoenix was dealing with things most people didn't know about. He'd had a pretty unconventional childhood where boundaries weren't always clear and substances weren't completely off limits. That early exposure created vulnerabilities that fame and success couldn't fix. On October 31st, 1993, he collapsed outside the Viper Room nightclub in Los Angeles. He'd taken a lethal combination of heroin and cocaine. His brother Joaquin desperately called for help, but paramedics couldn't save him. Phoenix died aged 23, leaving behind so much unrealized potential.
Who are you?
Ginger. So you're Charlie.
Yeah. Where's Mia?
Hang on a minute.
Charlie Sheen was the highest paid actor on television, making a fortune from his role as Charlie Harper in 2.5 Men. His character's sarcastic, reckless personality mirrored his real life. For years, he lived a life of excess, drugs, alcohol, endless nights of self-destruction that he seemed almost proud of. By 2011, everything fell apart as he gave these erratic interviews with bizarre catchphrases like tiger blood that went viral for all the wrong reasons. His behavior became so unpredictable that he got fired from the show. The biggest blow came in 2015 when Sheen revealed he was HIV positive, a diagnosis he'd been hiding for years. Since then, he worked on getting sober and rebuilding his life away from the spotlight. These days, he keeps a much lower profile, focusing on his family and health. Whitney Houston had a voice that was just incredible. When she sang, "I Will Always Love You," she delivered one of the most iconic performances in music history. On stage, she had this grace and beauty that seemed untouchable. But her marriage to Bobby Brown marked a turning point. Together, they fell into destructive patterns of cocaine and alcohol abuse. That flawless diva the world knew started to fade. Her once perfect voice began to falter during performances, and the tabloids loved documenting every stumble and sign that she was struggling. On February 11th, 2012, Houston was found unresponsive in her bathtub at the Beverly Hills Hotel. The coroner ruled it an accidental drowning, with cocaine, alcohol, and prescription medications all playing a role. The voice that had moved millions of people was gone.
There's a cycle, like life. Birth, excitement, growth, decay.
Even decades of sobriety offer no guarantee against relapse. And when it happens to someone like Philip Seymour Hoffman, who seemed to have conquered their demons, the fall hits harder. Hoffman commanded attention whenever he was on screen without chasing traditional stardom. His Oscar-winning performance as Truman Capote and his powerful work in the master Doubt and Magnolia showed this incredible ability to completely inhabit characters. However, Hoffman had been fighting addiction since he was young. He got sober in his early 20s and stayed that way for over 2 decades until he relapsed in 2012. Despite multiple attempts at treatment, he couldn't get back to where he'd been. On February 2nd, 2014, Hoffman was found unresponsive in his Manhattan apartment. There was a syringe nearby and fatal drugs in his system. Hoffman's death was a painful reminder that addiction ruins even the talented.
You want to tell me how long you've had a drug problem?
I don't even know who the chronic lady is.
Look.
It's not mine. I'll pee in a cup.
Young stars often carry hidden histories that fame can't erase, and the pressure of sudden success can reignite old struggles. Corey Monteith was loved for his charming performances as Finn Hudson on Glee. But behind that smile was a troubled past. His parents divorced when he was young. He started experimenting with drugs and alcohol early, and he was searching for stability he couldn't seem to find. Acting gave him purpose, and Glee seemed like it might be his salvation. But his struggle with addiction never really went away. Despite everyone's efforts and Corey's attempts to get clean, he couldn't shake it. On July 13th, 2013, Monteith was found dead in his Vancouver hotel room with toxicology reports showing heroin and alcohol in his system. He was only 31.
I'm not great at the advice. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?
Prescription medications can be just as deadly as street drugs, especially when dependency builds while working on a hit show watched by millions. Matthew Perry made millions of people laugh as Chandler Bing on Friends. But behind his wit and perfect comedic timing was someone drowning in prescription opioids. After a jet skiing accident in 1997, he became dependent on Vicodin. It got so bad he was taking up lots of pills a day while filming. His appearance changed noticeably as the addiction got worse. Over 3 decades, Perry went through different rehab programs in efforts to get sober. Perry finally got sober in 2021 and published a memoir in 2022 where he was really honest about his struggles. Matthew Perry sadly passed away in 2024, aged 54. Which actor's struggle resonated with you the most?